Welcome, this is Gary Russo, a MarkLogic developer. I'm here to talk about ways to ingest government data. In the blog post, you'll see a link to the datasets, so let's go right to it. It's posted on this GitHub site. It's a GitHub wiki page, and you can see here's the datasets. So there's about, 21 of these files. I wrote some code that ingests all of these files, and then we're going to have some code that's going to just pull in this file here nightly. I think I have it set to run at 8 p.m. Pacific Coast time, but we'll get into that in a minute. If you get a chance, please take a look at the Clay Shirky TED Talk. I think he's interesting. Some ideas about Congress. The United States Congress consists of two houses. There's the Senate and the House of Representatives. Each congressional session runs for 2 years, and we'll be able to measure productivity of each congressional session by the number of bills that get signed by the President of the United States. Each bill that is proposed, there's a sponsor. The sponsor can be either a senator or a House of Representatives person. Their objective is to propose the bill and then to be the chief advocate for it. So, blog post, you'll see the link to the Huffington Post article. I have some thoughts here about ways to measure productivity. I'm a MarkLogic developer, so I use it to ingest, enrich. We use it to query, and we're going to use it to discover. So MarkLogic do tools like Tableau and Excel. So let's take a look at the source code right now. I mentioned the ingestion part. The key part of this effort is to use MarkLogic xQuery, to use xQuery to ingest the data. The data format is JSON, and this is the code right here. So here's the code that's going to fetch the zip file. You can see here it's an HTTP GET. It's going to iterate through the zip file, pull out each file within the zip file, and then it's going to transform each file as a JSON document. This API right here is going to convert that to an XML. I call it xdoc, and then this xdoc is going to call this function here, which is really creating this XML document. And you can see here it uses these element items here, and this is the way I do they call the ETL, extraction, translation, transformation, and then loading. At this point though, I'm just taking that JSON, which is XML, and at this point it's XML. I'm going to enrich it a little bit. I have this function here called President Node, so I'm going to add, I created this really simple function here. So depending on the year, it's going to create a node about who the president was at that time, and I'm going to throw in a URL to their wiki page. We'll talk about this future screencasts because I want to add more enrichment to it. Maybe use some third-party enrichment services like OpenKLA. But for now, let's quickly look at this code here. So this is the source code that's going to create this XML. Now I showed you some of that source code. The wiki page here does a great job in documenting the JSON structures. If you could take a look here, a bunch of curly braces instead of angle brackets. It has all the sections, the bill history, sponsorships, and you can see that in here. I'll give you an example. There's actions, there's amendments. We're looking at the sponsorships, and here's where the sponsor is. I'm using these XPath statements to navigate through. So this code here takes the JSON, converts it to an intermediary XML, and it creates this clean XML document. One thing I wanted to show here is this key node right here, this JSON structure. It's called enacted as. Enacted as has the status. When the law type is marked public, that means it has been signed. So which ones are just in flight and which ones are actually signed. So my blog post talks a little bit about the JSON structure, shows the converted XML. A little bit of a snippet here to show how I did the conversion, the data. But we want to run this automatically every night. And the way to do that is through the scheduled task. MarkLogic has this nice scheduled task feature. Let's go right to it here. You go to your groups. I'm at the admin console here. You go to scheduled task, and there you can just create your task. If you look at the blog post, I throw some screenshots, and you can see where I have it set up. I'm pointing to the directory. What I was wanting to show is the tool that I used to create the initial code base was the app builder. MarkLogic has this great app builder. I'll show it to you in a second here. But when you deploy the code, it creates this directory structure that you see here. And there's this custom subdirectories. That's where I put my own custom code. With App Builder, I tend to constantly deploy, redeploy. And when you redeploy, as long as you put your code in custom, let me quickly show you this App Builder tool. Here's the App Builder tool. I'll go right into the one that we're talking about. It shows you your range indexes. Let me just quickly scroll through here. A lot of it's just self-explanatory, but here's where I create those nice widgets there out of the box, pretty much. And I just specify. I think the interesting thing here shows results. Let me just jump right to the content tab here. Here I created an XSLT, so I could just render that XML that we created into a nice tabular form. And I also give the ability to look at the raw XML. So we'll take a look at that in a minute here. Let me just go right to the deploy tab here. This is where you would push it out. And as long as if you have custom code, it's not going to clobber that directory. I think we're all at this point ready to take a look at the application. So please take a look yourself. Just click on this link here. And this is it. I call it the most productive Congress members web application. And it really just shows here, this chart here shows all the bills and by Congress. And then this pie chart here shows all the sponsors. Let me filter out. I click on this link here called public, and that's the link that's going to filter just the ones that were signed. So there we go. I hover over this bar, you can see 283 bills were signed in the 112th Congress. 111th Congress, there was 383. And right here you can see these are the top performing, most productive congressmen. And this stretches all the way back. If you scroll down, I created another node here where there's a year, and it ranges from 1981 to 2013. So I want to look at the bills that were passed when Bill Clinton was president. And during that time frame, you can see here's the top performing Congress members. John McCain is in there. We got, you drill down. Here's the actual details of the XML document. You click on this upper right hand corner and you get the raw XML. And you can see there's a series of titles. There's a series of subjects, a summary, and when I want to look down at this last node here, this is the node that tells if it was signed. So this was data that was ingested. This used to be JSON. We converted to XML. XML, there's a lot of advantages to it. I talk about it a little bit in the blog post, but the key thing is namespaces and schema. Just to show that the search in this application is fully functional. Here's a facet here that does the type ahead. With these items, the pie chart is actually active, so if you click on these items, they filters the data. We could look at RL Inspector. Bills passed by RL Inspector. Let's take a look at the 103rd Congress. That was back in 1993, and I could drill in and see more detail. Look at the raw XML again. So this is a good baseline. Future screencast, I'm going to enrich it further, and I want to talk about maybe using triples where I could capture relationships and do some inferencing. In the blog post, I talk about this notion of one-way systems. So there's big debate in the NoSQL tech community about ACID transactions versus base. Just topic for another day again, but in this case, this application we're using is really one way. We have the nightly ingestion, which is the input, but that's about it. Right now, it's just read-only and queries. Eventually, apps like this will become two-way. Two-way open government apps need more robust transactions. In that case, you need to have fault tolerance. You want to make sure that if there's a hardware failure while an update is occurring, that another server can pick up the load and make sure that the data is always consistent. We're just in the early stages of this open government thing, and we will see the two-way evolution of this to be more two-way. Next topic to talk about really is the exciting new SQL API in MarkLogic 6. If you look at MarkLogic 6, I have a link there. Take a look at what's new, but the big thing is this new notion of using a SQL view and creating an ODBC service. And once you have the ODBC service, you could pull the data into all these business intelligence tools. The details on how to create the SQL view is in the blog, but just to quickly show you, just go to App Builder, select the database that you want, and you press this configuration button here. Give it a chance to load up. And then you scroll down to the bottom and you'll see this button down here, or the section called Views, and you click Add View, and so I already have one created. Let's take a look. This is called the U.S. Congress view, and you can see the important thing to note about this is you want to avoid, in this case, I want to avoid the Cartesian products. So there's 275,000 documents, but each document could have many subnodes that if I was to, all these other items are just one item per document. So I created the SQL view. Let's just give it a quick test run, and to do that you use the XDMP SQL. I use Query Console, and here's a example. Let's take a look. It's a simple SQL statement here, selecting all the fields from the view, US Congress underscore view, and I'm just going to bring back 100 items. There you go. So there's the list. The first row is the header information, and you'll see the URI, document URI, and then the other items. So now that we have the SQL view, the next step is to create the ODBC service, and that is straightforward as well. I'll quickly show you the ODB service. You just click on App Servers, and there's this tab called Create ODBC, and you fill it in. I'll take a look at the existing one that I have created, and it's running on port 8007, and just gotta make sure it's pointing to the right database. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Once the ODBC service is created, the next step is to create the ODBC connection. So you have to launch the 32-bit ODBC data source administrator. I have a shortcut to it, so let's launch it. You click on the system DSN. I have one pre-made already, but you would click on the add button here, and you'd select the MarkLogic SQL and click finish. Then it takes you here, takes you to this configuration page, and you just fill in the information. You tell the database name, the server name, and port number or password. Make sure you test it, and then you're good to go. So let's go ahead and bring it into Excel. So I'm going to launch Excel. Let's resize this to fit the screen, and then I click on the Data tab, click on Sources, go to Microsoft Query, Click on the MarkLogic SQL, click OK. I have one already. I have two of them here. I'm going to just click on the U.S. Congress view, pull in all the columns. I'm going to choose all defaults. I don't want to do any kind of filtering or sorting, and I'm just going to pull it right in. And I'm going to make sure return data to Microsoft Excel. At this point, just give it about 2 minutes. Okay, after about 2 minutes, you'll see this pop up here. Click OK. Click OK, and you give it another minute or so, and you'll see the data will start coming into the spreadsheet. And there it is. So you can see it's organized. I could come here and I could sort. Let me sort by, well, let's see, we'll do a reverse sort on Congress. There you go. We have, say I want to filter just the bills that have been signed. Just click on public. Great. There we go. We have enough detail to do some good work here. That was Excel. So now let's jump right to Tableau. Tableau connection process is very similar. So I'm just going to launch the Tableau desktop application here. And you click on the connect to data, and on the bottom here, OWC sources, other databases. Go to this dialog and you select MarkLogic SQL, press the connect button, wait for this to come in, select your schema, in my case just main, and I click this search button here. It's going to give me the list of tables. It should be just here, this second item. And click OK here, and then give it another minute. Here's a case that if I did have the Cartesian product and I was pulling in 7 million records, this would take, could take 15-20 minutes to load up. It's still going to take about 3 minutes to load in. Okay, when it's ready to load up, you're just going to get prompted with this dialog box, and I choose the first item, connect live. And there we have it. So let me just do some quick Tableau. Show you on the left column here, you got your measures. And what I want to do is bring Congress and make Congress a column. Okay, and then I want to put the president's name up there as well. And number of records, we pull that into here, and I want to filter it by the type. I want to make sure we only look at the bills that have been signed. Okay, and actually want to make that rows, and there's our chart, very similar to the widget that we saw here. This is interesting to see. You can see there is some kind of drop off, some kind of evidence of gridlock, but there's other factors here. I think in the next screencast I'll drill down further on this, but one thing about Tableau, let's see, I could go here and I could view the underlying data here. So a lot to talk about here. They have these nice little show me charts. I can move it into different visuals. I go back here. It gives you many options. I like this nice button on the left, upper left, where I can go back to the previous. And let's just stick with this for now. Next screencast, I'm going to build from this. The tool that I built with App Builder, this one here with nice pie charts and widgets, I'm going to move this into Roxy so I could customize it more. I'm going to talk about enriching this XML data with maybe an open Calais service. So much to talk about. This is Gary Russo. Thanks for listening.